27 years we've been asking, who could take a 6-year-old boy and murder him and decapitate him? Who? We needed to know.
There is a sound that every parent knows. It is the sound of a child's name over a department store loudspeaker, and for most people, it is a minor embarrassment. A wandering kid, a distracted mother, a reuniting in the toy aisle that everyone forgets by dinner time. Adam Walsh, your mother is waiting for you. Please report to the toy department. That announcement played in the Hollywood Mall in Florida on July 27, 1981. Once, twice, every 15 minutes. And with every repetition, the temperature inside that Sears department store dropped a little further because the toy department remained empty and the little boy with the sandy blonde hair and the freckled cheeks and the dimpled smile never came running. He was 6 years old, and he was already gone. What happened to Adam Walsh in the summer of 1981 is not simply a murder case. It is a story about every system that was supposed to protect a child and didn't. It is a story about a corporation that knew something terrible and said nothing, about a police department that looked a grieving father in the eye and told him to slow down, about a country that had no infrastructure, none, for a missing 6-year-old, and about the man who built that infrastructure from scratch, out of the ruins of the worst thing that has ever happened to him. But before any of that, before the cover-up, before the suspects, before the blood in the Cadillac and the dying confession and the 40 years of unanswered questions, there was a boy, and his name was Adam. If you could order a son out of a catalog, John Walsh would later say, that would be Adam. 3 feet, 6 inches tall, sandy blonde hair, hazel eyes that changed color in the light, dimpled cheeks covered in freckles, the kind of freckles that come from a kid who spends more time outside than inside. His nickname was Otter, and if you knew him for 5 minutes, you understood why. He was quick and curious and always moving, always angling toward whatever was most interesting in the room. He was 6 years old, going on 7. He loved baseball the way some kids love breathing. He could draw for hours without looking up, whole worlds on a blank piece of paper. He called his mother Mommy and his father Daddy, and he meant it every single time. He watched Sesame Street in the mornings, he slept in his own bed, he had plans for 2nd grade. His parents were John and Reve Walsh. John was vice president and director of marketing at the Paradise Grand Hotel, working on a $26 million project, riding high on everything he'd built. Reve was a part-time student studying interior design, competing in bodybuilding tournaments, building a life she was proud of. They had a beautiful home in Hollywood, Florida. They had careers, they had each other, and they had Adam, their only child, their whole entire world. This was the American dream, 1981, and it was about to be destroyed. July 27, 1981 started like every other day. Adam woke up and watched Sesame Street. John kissed him goodbye before heading to work. Reve had errands to run. First, St. Mark's Lutheran School to drop off a $90 check to register Adam for 2nd grade, then a 5-minute drive to the Hollywood Mall. There was a lamp, a specific lamp that Reve had been waiting for months to go on sale at Sears. She had the advertisement in her hand. Today was finally the day. She parked on the north side of the mall, near the catalog entrance, her usual spot, always the same, and they walked in through the north entrance, past guest services, and that is when Adam saw it, in the toy department, a brand new Atari 2600 video game system. In 1981, this was not just a toy, this was a revolution. A television screen, 2 controllers, and a game called Star Strike that made kids cluster around it like moths around a flame. Adam's eyes went wide. He begged his mother to let him stay and watch. Reve looked around the toy department. She saw security guards walking the floor. She saw dozens of shoppers, staff everywhere. And through the windows, visible right across Hollywood Boulevard, she could see the Hollywood Police Department. It was noon, broad daylight, one of the safest, most public places she could imagine. She said, "I'm going over to the lamp department. It's just a few aisles away." Adam said, "Okay, Mommy, I know where that is." When she left, Adam was 3 kids deep in the line waiting for their turn at the game. She was close enough that she could practically see the top of his head. She would be back in 10 minutes, maybe 15 at the most. She went to the lamp section, found the salesperson. The lamp wasn't on the floor. They checked the back, not in stock. The saleswoman was on her lunch break, so Reve left her name and number and turned back toward the toy department. The boys were gone. All of them. The Atari sat there abandoned. Reve's heart began to pound. She called out for Adam. She walked through the aisles. Nothing. She went to customer service. "Page my son. Adam Walsh, please." "Adam Walsh, your mother is waiting for you. Please report to the toy department." Silence. By coincidence, John's mother, Jean Walsh, was shopping in the same store that afternoon, and they ran into each other. Both women, along with store employees, went through every corner of that Sears. Every 15 minutes, Adam's name came over the speakers. Every 15 minutes, the silence that followed became a little heavier, a little harder to breathe through. But here is what Reve didn't know, and here is what Sears refused to tell her. At approximately noon, just minutes after Reve had left Adam at that video game display, a fight broke out in the toy department. 2 black boys and 2 white boys arguing over whose turn it was to play. A 17-year-old security guard named Kathy Schaefer was called over. She was part-time, plain clothes, untrained. She had no protocol, no supervisor on the floor, no guidance for this exact situation. She assumed the boys in each group knew each other, and she made a decision. She asked the black boys if their parents were in the store. They said no. She told them to leave through the north entrance, the same entrance Adam and Reve had used, the side where Reve's car was parked, the side where his grandmother was shopping, on the wrong side of every single thing that was familiar and safe to a 6-year-old boy who had never walked anywhere by himself in his life. He was outside, alone, confused, frightened, in an unfamiliar parking lot in the middle of the afternoon. And Sears knew it, because within 30 minutes, Adam's name was being paged over the loudspeaker. The employees heard it, store management heard it, the security team heard it. And here is what every single one of them chose to do with the information that their security guard had just ejected a small child onto the street. Nothing. They said nothing. They told Reve nothing. When she asked where the boys had gone, employees shrugged. "He's around somewhere. You'll find him." For 27 years, the Walsh family would have no idea this had happened. Sears stayed silent, afraid of a lawsuit, afraid of the liability, afraid of the press. And so they watched a mother walk through their store calling her son's name, and they chose their legal exposure over her child. That is not a story about a 17-year-old girl who made a mistake under pressure. Kathy Schaefer was 17, untrained. She was doing her best with no support in a situation she had no framework for. She made a terrible judgment call, and she has carried the weight of it for over 40 years. That is its own tragedy. But Sears is a corporation. Sears has lawyers and risk management departments and PR teams, and the specific adult capacity to understand exactly what it means when a security guard ejects a 6-year-old from a store, and 30 minutes later, his name is being paged on a loop. And Sears made a choice. Slow down and think about that. By 1:55 in the afternoon, nearly 2 hours after Adam was last seen, the Hollywood Police Department was finally called. Officers came from across the street. The station was visible through the mall windows. They arrived, interviewed witnesses, began a search. And then a police aide told a reporter something that would define everything that was about to happen. Kidnapping is not suspected. The kid is probably trying to get home. He's probably lost. We're searching the city for him. Lost, as if a 6-year-old boy could wander away from a mall he'd never been to alone and find his way home across 5 miles of South Florida highway. As if Adam Walsh, who had never walked anywhere by himself in his entire life, had simply decided today was the day to start. It took 45 minutes for a uniformed officer to show up at the scene. The station was across the street. When John Walsh arrived, having raced 45 minutes from his office in Miami after Reve called, what he saw made him physically sick. There was no SWAT team, no cavalry, no command post, a scattered search with no coordination, and an attitude toward the father that could only be described as contempt. He demanded answers. Where's the task force? Where are the detectives? This is a 6-year-old boy. He lives 5 miles from here. He has never walked anywhere in his life. The officer looked at him and said, "Hey, cowboy, slow down. I don't like your attitude. Most kids walk home by themselves." John said, "I want your boss. I know the mayor. You should be looking for my son." The Hollywood Police Department was not looking. Not really. Not in any way that matched the urgency of what was happening. John and Reve, a business partner, went to the station and stayed. 2 weeks, barely went home. They set up their own phone tap in case someone called for a ransom demand, because the police hadn't done it yet. Reve sat through the night thinking about Adam's yellow flip-flops. His feet will be tired. His feet will be scratched. He'll be cold in his t-shirt. They plastered their car with signs. "Adam, we're still looking for you. Please stay here." They printed 500,000 flyers. Adam in his baseball uniform, smiling, the way he always smiled, like he was in on a joke everyone else was still figuring out. John appeared on the local news, his voice cracking at the edges. "We're not looking for revenge. Just drop him off somewhere. We'll forget the whole thing, please." The reward went from $5,000 to $10,000 to $100,000 to $120,000, the equivalent of $365,000 today. The public responded. Helicopters circled, volunteers walked through fields, truck drivers searched highways and talked to each other over CB radios. John gave people gas money. Friends, employees, strangers, all of them out there looking for one 6-year-old boy in a striped shirt and green shorts. But the police had almost nothing. Witnesses described a dark blue van, mag wheels, tinted windows, a chrome ladder on the back. The mall had been packed that day with thousands of people, and the suspect list was impossible to narrow. And then there was a second problem, a problem so fundamental it would have been darkly comical if the stakes weren't this high. John found out in a conversation with the county coroner that there was no system for connecting missing children to unidentified bodies, no national database, no clearinghouse. The FBI was prohibited by law to help unless there was proof the child had crossed state lines or a ransom note had been received. John asked if Adam's name was in the NCIC, the National Crime Information Computer. The coroner shook his head. No missing children, no unidentified dead. John said, "We put a man on the moon. You're telling me I have to call every coroner in Florida myself to find out if my son is dead?" The coroner nodded. John tried the networks, ABC, NBC, CBS, the only 3 channels that existed in 1981. They all said no. If we do it for you, we have to do it for every missing kid. Finally, David Hartman from Good Morning America agreed. John and Reve would appear on national television to beg for Adam's safe return. The date was set, August 11th, 1981, exactly 2 weeks after Adam had disappeared. But on August 10th, the day before their appearance, 2 fishermen were working a drainage canal off the Florida Turnpike about 120 miles north of Hollywood. Their names were Vernon Bailey and Robert Hughes, and they were casting lines near mile marker 130 in Indian River County as the afternoon light faded. Then one of them saw something floating. At first he thought it was a doll's head. It wasn't a doll. On August 11th, 1981, while John and Reve Walsh were live on national television, their faces broadcast into millions of American living rooms, pleading for whoever had their son to please just bring him home, police back in Florida were making identifications. When the Walshes landed back in Fort Lauderdale, reporters were waiting on the tarmac. The police had news. John Walsh's close friend and business partner drove to Indian River County Hospital. He identified Adam by the gap in his front teeth and the stub of a new tooth beginning to grow in. He had seen Adam just days before. His dentist brought dental charts and x-rays and confirmed the match. The medical examiners confirmed it. And years later, mitochondrial DNA from the jawbone would match Reve Walsh, silencing every conspiracy theory that ever tried to sprout in the space where certainty should have been. The head was airlifted to Broward County Medical Examiner's office, where Dr. Ronald Wright performed the autopsy. 5 blows to the back of the neck and skull, a sharp blade approximately 5.5 inches. The decapitation was post-mortem. Adam had already been dead when that happened, which is a mercy so small it barely registers, but it is the only mercy in this entire case. Cause of death is asphyxiation, trauma to the face, a fractured nose. Based on the state of decomposition, Dr. Wright estimated Adam had been dead for at least 10 days, killed within a day or two of his abduction, which meant he had not been kept alive. He had not suffered through 2 weeks of captivity. He had been killed quickly, and the head had been in that canal for 12 days before it surfaced in the last 24 hours. If Vernon Bailey and Robert Hughes had gone fishing somewhere else that evening, no one would have ever known what happened to Adam Walsh. When they cleaned the skull, they found white fragments, ceramic, paint, vitreous material, probably from the weapon. The fracture patterns were specific enough that they could have identified the exact tool used, if the tool had ever been found. It never was. The Walshes held a funeral, an empty casket, because the remains were evidence. They could not bury their son. John went to Dr. Wright. He begged for the remains. And what Dr. Wright said next in that late-night conversation in a medical examiner's office would change the course of American history. "I can't release the remains yet, but there is something you can do. You can help other missing children. You can make sure Adam didn't die in vain." The Hollywood Police Department began investigating everyone in Adam's life, and they had to, because statistics don't lie. When a child goes missing, the perpetrator is almost always someone close, a parent, a relative, a family friend. You start there and you work outward and you follow the evidence wherever it goes. John and Reve both submitted to polygraph tests, both passed, no deception detected. But then there was a name that would consume the investigation for months. James Campbell, nicknamed Dudley, 25 years old. He had lived with the Walsh family for 4 years and moved out just 2 weeks before Adam disappeared. On the morning of July 27th, he drove to the Walsh house around 9 in the morning. John had already left for work. Reve and Adam had breakfast. Reve asked if he could take Adam with him to work that day. He said no, too windy for the boats, too busy with a commercial shoot. He left at 10, arrived at work at 10:30. Multiple witnesses confirmed his timeline. But when the investigation dug deeper, Dudley revealed something that threw accelerant on everything. He and Reve Walsh had been having an affair. 3 years, still ongoing. And suddenly, the Hollywood Police Department had a love triangle theory, and they grabbed hold of it like a drowning man grabbing a rope. Dudley's first polygraph came back inconclusive. He was rattled. They put him through a second one. No deception. They hypnotized him. The Walsh family never believed for a single moment that Dudley had anything to do with Adam's death, and eventually, after months of investigation that one officer later admitted included violating Dudley's civil rights, he was cleared. The investigation moved on. And that is when the truth about Kathy Schaefer came out. In September 1995, 14 years after Adam's murder, she was found and re-interviewed, and now she said something different. She was 85% sure it had been Adam Walsh she had escorted out of the toy department. She was afraid to speak up. So many people blamed her, but she was 17. She didn't kill Adam. She made a terrible mistake in a situation she had no training for, working for a company that gave her no support and would later use her as a human shield between themselves and their own liability. She described the incident clearly. 2 black boys, 2 white boys. She split them out 2 different exits. The younger white boy, green shorts, striped shirt, said nothing when she asked if his parents were in the store. She sent him out the east exit, and 30 minutes later, she heard his name being paged. On July 22, 1983, just days before the statute of limitations expired, the Walshes sued Sears for negligence and wrongful death. The lawsuit alleged that Sears knew child predators frequented the toy department, that the video game display was deliberately configured in a way that attracted and isolated children, and that instead of ejecting Adam, the security guard should have found his parents. Sears fired back by alleging Reve herself was negligent for leaving Adam alone, and then threatened to subpoena everything: the affair, the family dynamics, the entire private life of a couple that had just buried their 6-year-old in an empty casket. And then Sears did something that guaranteed John Walsh would never stop fighting. They made it clear that if this went to trial, the police files would be opened in civil discovery, and if those files got leaked, it could destroy any chance of a criminal conviction. John Walsh dropped the lawsuit. He had bigger battles to fight, and he fought them. Over the years, dozens of suspects were investigated, some briefly, some exhaustively. There was Edward Harold James, arrested in 1981 for abducting a child in Pompano Beach. A cellmate claimed James had confessed to killing Adam, lured him out with ice cream, then decapitated him and kicked his head into a canal. Police got a warrant, searched his car, found that he'd replaced the front seat in August 1981, right after Adam disappeared. But they found nothing conclusive. He passed a voice stress test, and his employer confirmed he had been at work the day Adam went missing. There was Keith Allen Warren, who had tried to decapitate someone in Las Vegas with a machete. A cellmate said Warren bragged about killing Adam. Warren gave his DNA voluntarily. In 2008, he was ruled out. He later admitted he had only confessed to look tough in prison. And then there was Jeffrey Dahmer. In 1991, when Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested in Milwaukee for the murders that would define the worst of what a human being is capable of, people started coming forward with memories they had been carrying for 10 years. William Bowen said he saw Dahmer outside the Sears the day Adam disappeared. Willis Morgan claimed he saw Dahmer in a Radio Shack nearby, acting suspicious, and followed him to the toy department. A woman named Janice Santomassino said she nearly collided with a blue van illegally parked outside Sears, went inside, saw a disheveled man, felt something deeply wrong in her stomach, and when Dahmer's face hit the news, she said, "That's him." The police looked into it. Dahmer had been honorably discharged from the military in early 1981 and had flown to Miami in March. By July, he was broke, sleeping on beaches. He had gotten a job at Sunshine Subs, a sandwich shop, working there from April through September 1981. The shop had a blue van for deliveries. The owner said Dahmer didn't drive it because he drank too much. Dahmer denied killing Adam. He said, "If I did it, I would tell you. I would welcome the death penalty." And here's the thing that complicates this. Jeffrey Dahmer confessed to every other murder in excruciating detail. He told investigators things they could not have known unless they were true. He did not minimize, he did not protect himself. He told the truth about the worst things he'd ever done, again and again, and cooperated fully. Why would this be the one case where he chose to lie? But here's the counter. Dahmer lied to his father for years. He lied to his lawyer. He lied to police during his arrest. He was capable of selective deception when it served him. And in 1981, he had no car of his own. If he killed Adam, he would have had to steal the work van from Sunshine Subs, commit the murder, return the van, and do all of this without anyone noticing. Possible? Yes. Provable? No. On August 7, 1981, 3 days before Adam's head was found, a truck driver saw a blue van parked near that drainage canal off the turnpike. He saw a man with a flashlight and a white bucket dumping something into the water. After seeing Dahmer's photo following the 1991 arrest, the driver said he believed it was him. Jeffrey Dahmer was never charged in Adam Walsh's murder. He was beaten to death in prison in 1994. He took whatever he knew, whatever the truth is, with him. This is one of those cases where knowing and proving are two different things, and that gap does not close. On October 10, 1983, a television movie called Adam aired on national television. 38 million Americans watched. At the end, they showed photographs of missing children. A hotline number flashed on screen. The next day, a detective named Kendrick in Brevard County got a call. A drifter named Ottis Elwood Toole, locked up for arson, had been hinting for weeks that he'd killed a child. Now he said it outright. He and his companion, Henry Lee Lucas, had abducted a boy from a Sears in Fort Lauderdale, 7 to 10 years old, blue jeans, blue shirt, sneakers. Stop. That is not Adam's description. Wrong clothes, wrong age. And when detectives pushed further, a massive problem emerged. Henry Lee Lucas was in jail in Maryland the day Adam was abducted, locked up, could not have been there. When confronted with this, Toole changed his story. "Okay, I did it alone. I only said Lucas did it to get back at him. He killed my niece." Here is who Ottis Toole was. He and Henry Lee Lucas had met in a soup kitchen in Jacksonville in 1976. They became partners in the worst sense of the word, traveling together, claiming to have committed murders across the country. Lucas claimed 600 victims. Toole claimed 125. They became known as the confession killers, men who confessed to crimes they didn't commit in exchange for what investigators grimly called fried chicken and field trips, getting out of their cells, riding in a car, eating food that wasn't prison food, having detectives treat them like they mattered. Toole confessed to Adam's murder, then recanted, then confessed again, then recanted at least 4 times over the years. But here is where Toole becomes different from every other false confessor in this case. He described the crime in specific, detailed terms. He said he lured Adam with candy near the mall entrance. He said Adam got in the car willingly at first, then panicked, which meant Toole punched him, knocked him unconscious, got on the Florida Turnpike, heading north, pulled off on a dirt road, put Adam face down, and used a machete. 4 to 5 blows. That detail, the number of blows, the face-down position, matched the medical examiner's report, and the investigators maintained that specific information had never been released to the public. He described driving around with what remained on the front seat, then the back floorboard, eventually disposing of it near a wooden footbridge over a canal. Police drove him to mile marker 130 on the turnpike, the exact location where Adam's head had been found, and Toole pointed to the bridge and said, "That's where I threw it." The problem is that detectives had shown him a photograph of that bridge several days earlier, which meant it was impossible to know whether he remembered the location or was simply repeating what he'd seen in a photo. But then there was the Cadillac. Police found the car Toole claimed to have used, a 1971 Cadillac owned by a woman named Faye McNett, whom Toole had stopped making payments to, so she repossessed it. It was sitting in a Jacksonville lot. Police got a warrant and searched it. On November 2nd, 1983, they sprayed luminol inside the Cadillac. The driver's side floorboard lit up. The left rear floorboard lit up. Blood. This is where the story becomes something else, because the technology did not yet exist to determine whether the blood was human or animal, which meant the investigators had a choice. They could push this to a federal lab, they could seal the evidence and escalate, they could do the one thing that the case required. Instead, they sealed the evidence and left it in Jacksonville for 6 months, waiting for the Hollywood Police Department to come pick it up. Hollywood PD never came. The car was returned to the owner, sold for scrap in 1985. The carpet, the blood, gone. In 1995, an FBI agent reached out to John Walsh with a specific message: "Get me that carpet. Get me that blood sample. I can run DNA tests. We will solve this." When they asked Hollywood PD for the evidence, it was gone, lost, no chain of custody, no record of where it went. The one piece of physical proof that could have closed this case had been allowed to vanish because a police department couldn't be bothered to drive to Jacksonville. One investigator later examined the luminol photograph from inside the car. He said he could see the outline of a face in the blood on the floorboard, Adam's face. Reve Walsh believes it. She says, "That is my child." We will never know for certain because the blood is gone. Toole's timeline was checked meticulously. He was in Florida in May 1981 because his mother died. On July 24th, he checked out of a hospital in Virginia and got a bus ticket to Jacksonville. He arrived July 25th, claimed he dug up $300 from a tin can buried at his mother's property, said he went to Biscayne Bay on July 26th. On July 27th, Adam Walsh disappeared. Between July 26th and July 30th, the exact window of Adam's murder, police could not pin down Toole's location. He had no alibi, no one who could place him anywhere else. Police took Toole on field trips. They tried to trick him, took him first to a different mall in Plantation. He said, "Nope, wrong place. That one was 2 levels, not 1. They took him to the Hollywood Mall. He said it looked familiar. Multiple weapons were tested against the marks on Adam's skull, a machete, a bayonet, none matched. Fingerprints on tape around a machete handle didn't match Toole's. Hair samples from the Cadillac were too degraded for DNA testing.
At his mother's burnt property, police found green shorts and a yellow shoe. The Walshes said they weren't Adam's, but for years they were never even shown the items to make that judgment. On September 15, 1996, Ottis Elwood Toole died in prison. Cirrhosis of the liver, hepatitis. He was 50 years old. Before he died, his niece Sarah Patterson visited him in December 1995 and again in the months before his death. She asked him directly, "Uncle Ottis, did you kill Adam Walsh?" He said, "Yeah, I killed the little boy. I always felt kind of bad about it too." John Walsh later said the Hollywood Police Department didn't even know Toole was dying. Nobody went to talk to him. Nobody went to sit with a dying man and ask him the one question that needed to be asked. He died in a prison hospital bed, and whatever certainty he held went with him. There is a thin, dangerous line between what we know and what we can prove. In this case, that line took 42 years to cross, and even then, not everyone agrees it was crossed.
In 2008, John and Reve Walsh hired a retired detective named Joe Matthews. He reviewed the entire case file, 10,000 pages. Every interview, every forensic report, every field trip, every recanted confession and reconfession and dying whisper. His conclusion? Ottis Toole killed Adam Walsh. Matthews had found an unprocessed roll of film that had never been developed, a roll that showed what he believed was an imprint of Adam's face in the blood on the Cadillac's floorboard. Hollywood PD reviewed Matthews' work. They agreed. On December 16, 2008, Police Chief Chad Wagner held a press conference. John and Reve Walsh were there. Wagner announced that the case was officially closed. He stated that investigators were satisfied Ottis Toole was the killer. And then he did something that police departments rarely do. He publicly apologized for the mistakes, the lost evidence, the 45-minute wait, the career that was spent prioritizing the wrong suspects, the evidence that was left in Jacksonville until it was too late. John Walsh stood up and said, "Today is a reaffirmation that Adam didn't die in vain. For all the victims who haven't gotten justice, don't give up hope." Not everyone agrees with the conclusion. Critics point out that Toole's first confession had almost everything wrong. Wrong clothes, wrong age, Henry Lee Lucas at the scene when Lucas was in jail. They note that every subsequent confession was tailored to match details that police had already fed him, and that Toole was a man who confessed to crimes he hadn't committed for company and fried chicken and a ride in a car. They note that Jeffrey Dahmer was in South Florida in the summer of 1981, that there was a blue van, that multiple witnesses placed a disheveled man near the Sears, that Dahmer confessed to everything else in his life and said nothing about this. Both men are dead. Jeffrey Dahmer was beaten to death in prison in November 1994. Ottis Toole died in a Florida prison in September 1996. Neither will harm another child. The case is closed, but the question, the real question, the one that keeps parents awake, is one that justice cannot fully answer. What happened to Adam Walsh in those 2 weeks? We know he was killed within a day or two of his abduction, which is the only mercy this story offers. We know a blade was used. We know a canal off the Florida Turnpike near mile marker 130. Here is the part where one man's refusal to let systems fading daylight and something that turned out lives to be millions of children he would never meet. Everything else is the gap between knowing school and they founded the Adam Walsh Child Resource Center, a nonprofit for missing, abused, and neglected children. A television movie was made. The rights sold for $150,000, which funded the center. When the movie aired, $40,000 in donations poured in overnight. Missing children shown at the end were found. Parents across America learned for the first time how to talk to their children about strangers. In October 1982, President Reagan signed the Missing Children's Act, a national clearinghouse through the FBI. Children were finally entered into the NCIC database, the same database that had no missing children, no unidentified dead when John Walsh was trying to find his son. John pushed for VICAP, the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, to track serial killers across state lines. The Adam Walsh Center became the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. To date, they have recovered over 360,000 children. Let that number land. 360,000 children who came home because a father refused to accept that this was just how it was.
In 2006, President Bush signed the Adam Walsh Child Protection and Safety Act. It expanded the National Sex Offender Registry, created a child abuse registry, and strengthened penalties for crimes against children across the board. John became the host of America's Most Wanted, 23 years on air, over 1,000 fugitives captured, including some of the most dangerous people in the country. He went on to host In Pursuit with John Walsh and Hunt with John Walsh, still doing the work, still refusing to stop. And then there is Code Adam. When a child goes missing in a store anywhere in America, a Code Adam is called. The store locks down. Employees mobilize. Every exit is watched. Nobody leaves until the child is found. The program is named after a 6-year-old boy who was ejected from a toy department and never found his way back to his mother. It runs in hundreds of thousands of retail locations across North America. Think about the last time you heard a Code Adam called in a store. Think about the employees who dropped what they were doing and started looking. Think about a child who got separated from their parent and was found, frightened but safe, reunited in an aisle, held by someone who loved them. That is Adam Walsh. Not a program, not a policy, a 6-year-old boy who loved baseball and drawing and Sesame Street, who called his mother Mommy, who had freckles and hazel eyes and a gap in his front teeth where a new tooth was growing in, who had plans for 2nd grade. His death did not save him. Nothing could save him. But his death saved 360,000 children, and it is still saving children today, in every store that locks down, in every database entry that connects a missing child to an unidentified body, in every Amber Alert that crosses your phone and makes you look up and pay attention. On a summer morning in 1981, a mother parked on the north side of the Hollywood Mall and walked in through the catalog entrance the way she always did and went to look for a lamp. Her son stayed behind to watch a video game. And in the minutes that followed, every system that was supposed to protect him failed. A distracted teenager, a silent corporation, an indifferent police force, a country with no infrastructure for this moment. And from the ruins of all of that failure, John and Reve Walsh built something. Evil does not care about innocence. Evil does not care about baseball or drawing or the gap in a child's front teeth. But what one family did with their grief, what they built out of an empty casket and a midnight conversation and a refusal to stop, that is the one thing in this story that evil could not take from them. Adam Walsh did not die in vain. He never will. If you found this case compelling, leave a comment below. What detail hit you hardest? And what do you think the truth is? The case is officially closed, but that doesn't mean the conversation is. This channel exists because I spend weeks in case files, so you don't have to. If you want to see more of this work, you know what to do.